Welcome to Spiritist Conversations, a show where we get together with friends to talk about things in an unscripted and informal way. We are here today at the lobby of another hotel. We're making a habit out of this, guys.
This is becoming an everyday phenomenon here.
Yeah, every time we come to Boston, we end up in the lobby of a hotel, and we end up talking about something. And today, we are here at the lobby of the Envision Hotel in Everett. Are we in Everett?
Yes, this is Everett. Everett, Massachusetts.
Our Boston studios, lobby of a hotel. And we have here our dear Flavio Zanetti. We have here our beloved Suzana Simons, which is also the original gang. We were putting the band back together of Spiritist Conversations.
Back together.
And we have somebody who snuck in too, who's an adopted child, Marcelo Neto. Marcelo, we're also glad to be here.
Thank you so much. I'm very glad to be here.
So we have Boston, California, and Florida united here, and we were talking about a very important topic these days, which is the outlook for the world.
Is the world getting better or worse?
Or worse. We have witnessed a lot of really impactful events as of late. We've had the Las Vegas shooting happening just last week. We had hurricanes happening in our friends' backyards here in Florida, and they were affected by it as well. We have lots of changes, lots of things shaken up in the world, and one of the questions that all of us get quite often when we talked about is the world getting better, or is it going backwards? So we figured it would take a couple of minutes to tackle that and share some of our perspectives and figure this out. And today we also had the great opportunity to listen to Suzana here in an event in Boston, where she was talking about the chaos in the world, and she addressed this head-on. So we figured we'll put that on the air too. So
absolutely. Yep.
So what do you think, Suzana? Is that okay if we start with you? So what's your take on all these things that are happening?
Absolutely. I will share that I have moments where I ask myself the same question, especially when you are in the heat of things and you're watching the news. It's very hard in that moment where you're witnessing so much pain and so much destruction, and sharing the anguish of so many other people, to actually have a sense that things are actually moving forward, that we are moving to a better place. I mean, you mentioned natural disasters, and you mentioned also the shooting. But we could also add to this picture, which is something that really bothers me sometimes, the politics in the world, right? The politics. So a lot of times you look at different countries and what's happening in different countries, and like how countries that had established democracy are changing into dictatorships, and so it's those type of things do like what's happening here, because we hear about the law of progress, right? We hear about everything is evolving. So how do we understand? Because it seems like we are going backwards when it comes to that. So those are my initial thoughts. I would not want to answer right away, but I want to say that I share these feelings sometimes.
I don't think you're alone on that one, right? Flavio, you're going to say something?
No, I think you're not alone at all, because if you look at from the surface, right, all these things that are happening really takes us to a dichotomy, right? So if we see all the technological progress, all the findings, all the development that we actually reaping these days, it doesn't really match some of the things that are happening in some countries, some political systems, or the devastations that are happening throughout the world. It's not only the United States. I mean, it happens everywhere in the world. So I also echo your comments, Suzana, that if you don't really stop to analyze, I like the word double clicking. If you don't double click on that topic, right, it's a very difficult to come to grips with it.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting, very interesting. You guys brought this perspective, because I do share the same kind of opinion. It seems, especially because of the media, the episodes that we see maximizing the pain of many people and the discrepancies that we see in many countries. We are here in the United States, where technology takes place in a way way beyond, for example, one of the most poor countries in Africa or in the Middle East or many. So we see this kind of contrast, and we see laws taking place by, you guys mentioned politics, by the dictators ruling the lives of millions of people, and they simply seem to be completely restrained by the subject to one person, one dictator, one. We feel like actually extremely it's distressing. It's disturbing. That's the word I would like just to use. But I was trying to see the better aspect of life, because I know media focus much more in things that are negative. But I am trying to do something different. And I saw Suzana's lecture this afternoon. There is running beside this whole chaos that we see so much showing in the media, small miracles, small things that shows the dignity of humankind, the loving of people. And this is such a silence movement. I don't know if you guys understand.
I do, and I was going to jump in that one because I've been spending some time really questioning myself to what Suzana was saying. Like, man, we know that that things seem to be better, hypothetically and philosophically, but are they really? Should we really be pessimistic? Should we be optimistic? And you know what? One of the conclusions that I got to, and I don't know if you guys agree with, is I think that we see all this darkness in the world, because there's a lot of darkness right now, seems to it at least, because of the media that you were talking about and the technology. And I think the reason we do that is because now there's more light in the world. And so whenever you bring a new light into the world and you change your light bulb, and it goes from like 65 watts to 100 watts, you have more light. Yeah. You see all these dark corners that you didn't see before. Everywhere. And because of technology now, we get the information of all these things that are happening that we didn't see before, because we have social media and so forth that kind of comes in. But so I ask myself, are we fundamentally having more violence in the world than we ever had before? And my answer seems to be no. I think that we're just seeing it more clearly now, because
I agree.
We are paying attention to it more than we ever done before.
Yeah, if you recall, by the way, guys, folks listening, we are actually here, all of us together, because we all attended the 8th Spiritist Conference of Massachusetts. And one of the keynote speakers in this conference, who by the way, listens to Spiritist conversations as well, was Sandro Klingi. He told us today that this all started when we started to have TV channels that are focusing on news 24 hours a day.
I thought that was an interesting comment.
It was a very good comment, because beforehand, right, we only had news, casts maybe at 7 p.m. during dinner time and whatnot. But now there are channels, right, 24 hours a day,
dedicated
news.
Yes.
And they have to run after news.
Yes,
right?
they have to run after news because it's somewhat difficult, right? Perhaps maybe impossible to really come up with news for 24 hours in every day.
And we're being bombarded by news
because
they have to repeat the news, this negative news, and we are simply like smashed by this kind of impact.
Well, let me throw a wrench in this conversation, because when you look at the amount,
because I was going to do it, and I hate being the guy that always does it. So please derail us. Go for it.
So, if we were to think that the world was not progressing, was not moving forward, right? How come right now it's a time that we have the largest amount of hours that were volunteered?
You stole my argument, sir.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I said it first.
I agree with you. I
said it first. So it hasn't been ever this number of hours of people volunteering in the world.
Or the number of people volunteering.
Or the number of people as well, right?
Never in the history of humankind have we had so many people and so many non-profit organizations, for that matter, devoted to helping others. Right? That's never happened before.
So it's a dichotomy if you don't think about it.
It is a dichotomy, right? So how do you reconcile? This is one of the things that gives me solace to believe that in fact the world is getting better, like Suzana was saying and hinting at, but that we just don't see, right? Because there's a lot of people trying to do good.
How do we tell? So let's go a little more practical, because Spiritism has to be practical, in my opinion, my personal humble opinion. How do we tell someone that lost their entire house,
right,
thanks to Hurricane Irma? How do we tell someone that maybe lost a loving member of their families in the last shootings in Las Vegas. How do we tell these people that the world's getting better?
Yeah.
That's right.
I don't know if we tell them. I think that we help them.
How do we help
Right.
them see the
I think
world
that
getting better?
I think that we just have to be there for them, right? And then with time,
I agree.
we can make an intellective argument, right?
I
I think this is the time to come together and say, this sucks, but I'm with you.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
because-
put my hand on your shoulder and I'm gonna help you.
We have one thing for sure is we think there is a tendency, I think, sometimes in the Spiritist movement to think that all this cognitive knowledge that we have, and I think we should talk a little bit about it, will ease people's pains.
Exactly.
And you know, it's losing your entire house, losing an entire family, having people shot when they were in a concert. These are traumatic, painful events. And
Extremely.
I agree with Danny. It's a matter of like at that time just sitting with them and showing compassion and being able to share the pain. And then in another moment, right? Speaking about, I think, what Spiritism brings to us, which is a broader viewpoint of what life is truly about. And I think that's it's something, as we were talking earlier today, that will not change, will not move away, remove from your life the challenges, will not make the pain disappear, but that gives you a ground that no matter how dark life is, you never lose sight of the light at the end of the tunnel. I think that that's what Spiritism provides. And the question is, how does it provide? Where does this hope comes from? What are the tenets in Spiritism that we embrace that give us? The question is for all of you, although we have these feelings and these questions sometimes, do you ever feel like that the world is entirely lost and that there is no hope for humanity? Do you ever have this feeling?
It's a great question. So I don't ever feel the world is lost.
Right.
I do have peaks and valleys, like you said before, right? I feel like, oh my God, this is so much work. And that question myself, and I think it's somewhat of an answer to what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I think partially the reason why I don't feel so distraught all the time is because I believe in the existence of God, right? And that there is a purpose to things. But I know that that's because I arrive at that conclusion. And I also think that if you don't hold the belief of God in your mind, then the world seems like a bleaker time. Now, on the other hand, I also say that you can say, well, it's very convenient to believe in God in those moments, right? And that is true too. I can
Right.
see that argument too, right? So for me, a lot goes back to the belief in God, right? To kind of hold me up and say, this sucks, but I believe that there is a larger play here, and there are many other things that can be suckier that don't go that way.
Yeah, but that same belief in God sometimes is used to justify things. So God is punishing these people because they're doing X, Y, Z. Therefore, somebody's going to go there and shoot and take away lives.
Or so that
Or
we don't
maybe
do
a
anything,
hurricane.
right? Or it's a believer in action, right? Like it's like, oh, God wanted it, so I'm not doing anything about it. Somebody else is going to deal with it.
Right.
God deal with it, right?
Is that the same belief that you have?
No, that's definitely not it, right? So one of the key tenets, I guess, of Spiritism and the things that we think about is free will and responsibility. And our role in the world, right? That we're in this world not only to, of course, get better and evolve spiritually, but that we also have to have a play. We also have to make take our part in the creation. We have a responsibility towards each other, right? And so we got to help out the world too.
I'm going to connect an amazing sociologist. His name is Zygmunt Bauman, that talked about the world these days, right? The modern, the liquid, modernity that he talks about. But one thing that he says that really struck me when I first read one of his books many, many years ago was something along the lines that everybody pays the price for poverty. Everybody pays the price for anxiety in the world. Everybody pays the price for all these social problems that we have nowadays. So like you or not, if we live like we do in a world that has a lot of social issues, we all pay the price.
Yeah, we are part of the solution and we're part of the problem.
Exactly. We're part of the solution and also part of the problem. Do you guys feel like that as well?
No, I agree with you. And I also like what you mentioned about that we have to reach out to others in order to help. and not put the name, the religion brand on our actions, but simply go and reach out to others. I remember a phrase of Mother Teresa, and we all know that she is a Catholic nun. She was a Catholic nun. And when she opened the house of the poor in the city of Calcutta, and she reached out to so many Hindus, Buddhists, Muslims, she never asked the religion. And this was not actually a prerequisite to be assisted by the love. So after these assistance that she provided, many, of course, ask naturally, who are you? Why are you doing this? Why are you helping me since you are in a different belief system? You have a different belief system. And it says, because I simply love. I see you as my master, and my master is Jesus. And this is the way that she was mentioning. It doesn't matter the master that we have, because love is much bigger than anything, any belief system, any religion. So this is giving the example, reaching out to others. And once we reach out to others, we might maybe spark a little thing, and like, okay, maybe God didn't forget me. I'm still here. There's somebody there reaching out to me, different beliefs, different traditions, and I see that we have in the world fraternity, we have brotherhood, and this is maybe the key of all our problems. One of the keys of our problems. I don't know if you guys understood what I was trying to say.
I think what you're trying to say is that by doing your part, you bring hope to other people, because they feel like that God is present through the people who is helping. Is that the point that you're trying to make?
Yes, exactly. What I'm trying to say is, if we can do something for humanity, don't lose hope in humanity.
Right.
And once this is achieved, even though it's very little we can do, we can bring something different, some flavor different to this world. And
So, but let me go back to my original question, because I think you guys touched upon it, but not entirely the way I see it.
Mm-hmm. But hold on before you do.
Sure.
Because we're going to go into commercial break right now.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And so stay tuned as we listen to our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
My name is Rossandro Klein, and I listen to Spiritist Conversations.
Hi, my name is Daniela Sakuyoshi. I am from Atlanta, Georgia, and I listen to Spiritist Conversations.
Hi, my name is Teresa from Miami, Florida, and I listen to Spiritist Conversation.
Hi, my name is Claudio from San Jose, California, and I listen to Spiritist Conversation.
I'm Marcia from Atlanta, Georgia, and I listen to Spiritist Conversations.
And how about you? Do you listen to Spiritist Conversations too? Or did you just happen to stumble upon a program today? Either way, drop us a note. We would love to hear from you. After all, it takes many voices for a great conversation. Reach out to us on Facebook and give us your opinion on our podcast. Tell us what you think we should talk about, or just chime in to say that you're listening. Who knows? We might just ask you to come on the air with us if you're willing. But regardless, thank you for listening. And now, back to a program.
And we're back with my original question, which ties to my first original question. So what do we tell? Remember, guys, the way I see Spiritism is, humbly speaking, something practical, right? Mm-hmm. How do we tell someone, Suzana, that maybe in your neck of the woods lost the entire house thanks to Hurricane Irma? How do we tell somebody that thanks to a unfortunate situation, that person sees the lives of loved ones being taken away in an event like what happened to Las Vegas? What do we tell these people?
I think we kind of touched a little bit on that, but I want to go a little further and then bring John Dewey into the mix. And he said something that was fantastic. He says that we don't learn from experience, we learn from reflecting on experience. And so these moments are great moments of reflection for us, and I think that's one of the things that we can take away from all of this, is that the moment that we have these tragic things. If we look carefully, we see moments of great beauty afterwards or during it, right? Like in the Las Vegas shooting, for instance, there were people jumping on top of each other to protect them. It like brings tears to my eyes, you know. And during the hurricane, there were people who were like doing incredible things to help each other, right? In Puerto Rico right now, there's like some amazing things happening that we normally don't pay attention to. And I wonder if sometimes these things shake us to a core and help us refocus on what is important, right? Because sometimes we get lost in the world and we think that our, problems are really important, and then we realize that at the foundational, most basic level, we need to recalibrate and see that what really matters is not whether I should redecorate my room or paint it pink or white, or whether my iPhone battery is going to die or not. And it's not the end of the world. And there's fundamental, basic questions at play. So that could be one way of looking.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
too.
And that goes, it's one of the principles in Spiritism, right? I mean, we learn in Spiritism that progress is always taking place at a small pace. It does not happen. It's not in a hurry. God is not in a hurry. Let's put it this way. But we also learn that from time to time, if humanity is not evolving in God's speed, God allows. Because a lot of people say, how can God, who is so good,
allow this to happen to me?
So this God cannot be good. It cannot be good, because a God that allows this level of destruction cannot be a loving God. But so we understand that a lot of times these tragedies, whether it's hurricanes, moral, different things that happens in a bigger scale, they shake society. We are it's very easy for us to go back to our mundane things and our material worries. Not that they are bad per se, but it diverts a lot of times ourselves from the main purpose of life. So with that, you see humanity coming out of people. People start to forgetting about themselves to what if that was our everyday way of living.
Imagine that.
Everyday way of living.
Yeah.
Imagine if we live in a world that people would have the same level of consciousness that they develop at the time of disasters.
You'd be a planet of regeneration.
We would be in a better world already.
Be a better world already.
Yes.
Incredible, no
Absolutely.
doubt. So do we have reasons then to be optimistic? And so how do we do it? Because it is a little bit of a glass half empty and glass half full kind of problem.
Yes.
And I wonder if the glass half empty and half full kind of problem really is a perception problem, right? Is what is it that we make out of what we see and how we let that influence our day-to-day actions. When I see the glass half empty, do I feel I've been wronged or I'm missing something? Does that carry it to the rest of my day? Versus if I see the glass half full and I'm grateful for the half full that I have, does that make my day more palatable and better? So how do we do that? It's all in our minds, but how do you set yourselves up to look at the world positive? Do you make a concerted effort to change the way you think you're about the world and to make that shift?
So I'll start by saying that I'm a very positive person by nature. You guys know me already, so.
Annoyingly so.
Yeah, annoyingly so, but it is what it is.
It's one of your great qualities, actually.
I hope anyways. So
let's ask your wife.
Yeah, I was gonna get there. So yeah, it's a quality because you don't live with me. But that's beyond the point. So again, I'm a very positive person by nature, but sometimes I'm taken back, right, on some of these situations. And every time that happens, it's a paradigm shift that and I invite you all to follow that as well. Not because I'm right that's not the point. The point is, works for me. It might work for you as well. Who knows? So what I do is every time something like this shakes me up, I say, oh, hang on a second. I remember that God is at the realm of all this. Right? And when we understand that everything, a leaf from a tree won't fall if it was not under God's wish, or God's will. The moment you understand that, of course, it's not going to be tomorrow, but once we understand that, the paradigm changes. When you start looking at the glass half full as opposed to half empty, yes, there'll be a lot of difficulties. There'll be a lot of vicissitudes. There'll be a lot of problems, and yes, there'll be a lot of crazy things in the world. But if we don't remove ourselves from that situation and look from a much broader aspect of our lives, because this is only one chapter of our lives. It goes back to me, of course I'm over 40 years old. I remember watching movies that we used to have, TV commercials in those movies. Like we just had one commercial. So if you only listen to this part of the conversations, you don't get the whole gist of it, just have a small portion of it. This goes also to us, to our lives. This is only one chapter of our lives. For us to really understand what goes on, we have to have a much broader view of our spiritual life, right? Which is composed of several incarnations. It's just one idea. And when you watch only one chapter of a movie, you have an idea the movie's thriller, it's an action, it's a drama, or it's a horror movie. You have an idea what the movie is, but you can't really comprehend the entire movie. That's how I made myself, I convinced myself.
It's a frame out of the picture.
It's a frame out of my mind. It's a paradigm shift that I created so I can really focus on it.
That's right. Since we are talking about, we are going to participate in this program, Spiritist conversation, the Spiritist aspect is very interesting to be brought over here. And that makes a lot of sense because without the vision, without the knowledge of reincarnation, of many lives that we have, it simply will seem extremely unfair. And of course, we might be finding people thinking that God is profoundly unfair. And that's right. So this kind of vision, this kind of understanding, it's extremely important for us to see and for us to understand that we keep living, we're going to be living for the rest of our existence forever.
It's just a chapter of our movies.
It's just one chapter.
Yeah, Flavio was talking about this changing paradigm and answering Danielle's original question. I too tend to see the glass half full. I think over the years developing this sense of gratitude and appreciation for what we have. And I think a lot of that comes from one of the aspects addressed on the lecture earlier today, the ability to leave the midst of the city and go to the top of the mountain and try to look at life from a higher perspective. So that really, really helps me bring the Spiritist concept of it. So I think that understanding who we are, understanding the role of what we call life, because we call life, why losing someone is so painful? Because in the more materialistic and mundane conception, life is the present moment, is here now. Mm-hmm. But when you go to the top of the mountain and you see life for what it is, you're going to understand that there is no death, there's only life, and the period of time that we are alive in this physical body is a very, very short period compared to what our life truly is. So going back, does that make the loss of someone easier? No, but it gives you hope. It gives you the certainty that the person is not gone. The person has just transitioned to a different realm of life. It gives hope because you can, if you open yourself, you can feel the presence of that person near you. So you know that you will be forever connected, that soon you will be together with that person, and so much more that comes from this higher perspective of what life is about.
And it brings us comfort and consolation. It doesn't anesthetize us.
Right.
It doesn't take that pain away. Right.
It's actually biologically impossible not to feel grief or bereavement. Right?
Yes.
Of course.
There's a word that you have to. There's a phase.
It's natural.
You have to go through it, right? Because it's part of who we are as human beings.
Of course.
If you don't go through it right away, you have an issue. Right? There's a problem with you.
Yes.
So,
psychopath.
Yeah, exactly.
We want to feel the presence of friends that we like, with people that we like. Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay, Marcelo. So once you go through that moment, even throughout that moment, having what you mentioned, then I think it's paramount.
And I think that what Suzana said is beautiful in many ways, and it kind of goes on and connects to something else too, which is once we realize that we have this immortal life and that we are just in a chapter of it, and that we are going to see those we love, and that we are maybe going to come back with them or meet them, whatever it is, we start thinking that maybe those who are next to us and are not part of our immediate family are also part of our journey. And so the concept of the universal family that we talk about starts to permeate into our souls a little bit better. And I start thinking, you know what? The friendships that I make also go on, not just the great relationships out of love, which means I will continue to maybe have a relationship with these people. And so our family circle grows and helps us have more empathy and love towards all human beings in due time. And that's kind of an exercise that we try to do, is how can I extend this love that I feel for my family to everybody around me? Of course, we're not there just yet, but it wouldn't be a wonderful world when we get to a point where the greatest amount of love we have in this life. So imagine whoever it is that you love the most. Imagine if you can feel that way towards everybody around you. What a fantastic place it would be. But it takes effort.
It takes effort.
It takes trying.
Yes, I think, I know we're coming almost to the end of our conversation here, but I would like to highlight something that I brought up in the lecture today that I think is particularly challenging, but it's something that, you know, if we want to live in a better world and if we want to transform things, we need to challenge ourselves in the things that we do. So when Jesus came, he brought a very high level proposal to humanity. He said that, you know, there is no merit, Danielle, if I love you, because you're my friend, you think the way I think, you know. Can you love someone who thinks differently? And even more than that, can you see the killer? Can you see this psychopath? We use the term psychopath. Yep. We label the man like psychopath, ill. But that man is a child of God. So can we start, we need to start in our minds as an idea that is possible. We need to believe in our minds that it's possible to see God in every single person, so that one day we can come to this place of actually feeling and loving when Jesus is about to be taken by the guards, and Peter tries to help him and cuts the ear of the soldier. Right, of the soldier. Jesus picks it up and put it back in place. Because why? Because Jesus saw in that man, not the enemy, not the psychopath, not the sick, but a divine child of God that deserves love. So he's the challenge, and there is hope. There is hope for absolutely every single one in this planet.
So I'll comment. This is fantastic because it is taking me to a place that I like a lot, right? The main reason why people try to dehumanize others is because they don't see themselves as being part of others. So for example, when you look at when someone did something horrendous, which is the shootings, right?
Yes.
Psychopath, or maybe when someone does something totally out of whack that we don't even understand why, right? We don't understand why, because at this incarnation, at this life, we're not close to that.
Right.
But who guarantees? What guarantees? Maybe a couple of chapters before, we were doing the exact same things. And if we were doing the exact same things, didn't we want to feel some love? When we really woke up to a totally new life, we would love to have somebody that loved us to help us go or navigate through those complexities. Or even worse, maybe in the future state. I'm not going to suggest we're going to go and start shooting people tomorrow, because that's not what we're saying here, but the smallest things, right? What works in the macro sense should also work in the micro sense. Small things like forgiving, or like disappointing people, or offending people, because they're different skin color.
This being said, I guess I asked the group, did we answer the original question? We did talk about, is the world going forward or backwards? Was it answered?
I would say absolutely yes. The world is going.
I agree.
It is going forward.
Yeah.
Yes, we can put the pieces together, right? So what did we talk about in this last half hour? We spoke about God. We spoke about immortality of the soul. We spoke about having different points of view, looking at life from the spiritual perspective. We talk about how today, because of the media, we are a lot more exposed to the so-called evil. We talk about the immensity of goodness and good people doing things. We talk about the volunteer work today that is more than has ever been. And so when we put all those things together, I think that we have a very positive picture. And for sure, we can say that we are moving forward, the world's getting to a better place, and there's definitely hope for this humanity.
Do you agree?
Absolutely, yes.
That's right. And so the invitation that's left to all of us is to follow the words of Gandhi here, who invites us to be the change we wish to see in the world. So we invite everybody who's listening to go out there and have a positive outlook in the world and make a daily difference and help your brother or sister or mother or uncle or neighbor whatever way you can, and really make this a better place. So we thank you so much for listening to Spiritist Conversations, and we hope that you will tune in soon.
Thank you.
See you soon.